And I'm pleased to say Harold joins me on the line for our local history. Harold, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Damo. I'm steering clear of the flu and things like that. It has terrible effect on some people, doesn't it?
It does indeed, yes. You can tell from me. I'm all over the shop with the flu, but anyway.
We love you all the same, Damo. That's all right. Keep going.
As long as it's from a distance, right?
That's right.
That's right. Now, mate, we need to talk history. And, of course, this is a great yarn. As we know, the end of the financial year is today. We kick off a new one tomorrow. But even back 100 years ago, people were still getting in trouble with their taxes if they got it wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I wanted to tell you this story, because it's a warning that 100 years ago, even ordinary people could get into trouble with their taxes if they got it wrong. So I'll tell you about Frank Weaver Harvey. Now, he was just an ordinary milkman, but in reality, he did something extraordinary in history. I'll tell you about that. Now, Frank's parents, Thomas and Elizabeth, they were from the West Midlands of England. Frank was born in Toowoomba in 1887 and grew up in an ordinary family home on Klein Street. Now, Frank married his sister-in-law, Margaret, in St Stephen's Presbyterian Church at Toowoomba. Come the First World War, Frank's brother, Gerald, who was an engine cleaner at the Toowoomba railway station, he was killed in action in Belgium. Another brother, Reginald, was a warder at the Willowbean Mental Hospital in Toowoomba when a patient under his care escaped and was killed when he fell from a windmill. Now, Frank was one of 12 siblings, and his father, Thomas, saved a stack of money when he married off two of Frank's sisters, Florence and Elsie, on the same day in the same single ceremony at St George's Church of England in Toowoomba. I'm getting excited with the savings of money with the two weddings.
Me too.
And look, just after Frank's 34th birthday, a red-headed bicycle thief, that's how he was reported, with at least 3 aliases, stole Frank's riding saddle. So all these ordinary things were happening to the family that I guess happened one way or another to us all. But come the Great Depression, and things got a bit tough. Now, Frank got fined by the Toowoomba City Council for letting his cows graze for free on Mackenzie Street where he lived. He cut corners by selling his milk, contrary to regulations, and got fined for that too. Frank got caught selling watered-down milk, which he blamed on the dry spell and the lack of green feed, but it was watered down nonetheless, and he pleaded guilty. Now, this was all very ordinary for a milkman back then, I'm sorry to say, especially during the Depression, when every ounce of cream had to be made to go as far as possible. But what really set Frank back was that exactly 100 years ago this year, in 1926, he got into trouble with the tax man. So, be listening, people, we're going to the new tax season. Now, Frank was convicted and fined £25 for having submitted a false tax return for the 1924-25 year. Now, he had understated his assessable income by more than £800 and overstated his deductions by almost £200. Now, the amount of tax paid by him was just £11, the paltry amount, but the amount due was over £127. And so that was a shortfall of £116. So the tax office aren't going to let you get away with that. So in addition to the £25 fine, Frank was made to pay double tax. In other words, an extra £116. Damo, that's a total fine of around $56,000 in today's money.
Yeah.
Which for an ordinary Toowoomba milkman back then was a lot. You see, they made an example of him.
Yes.
Now, Frank blamed the tax error on getting a friend to do his tax return for him, which I think is also pretty ordinary because most people get a friend to do that. But what makes Frank Harvey really extraordinary is that his prosecution in 1926 was in fact the first income tax prosecution in Toowoomba history. Now, wow. Frank passed away in 1969 and is buried at the Drayton and Toowoomba Cemetery. I think maybe he's deserving of a plaque or something paid for by taxpayers because of his remarkable place in Toowoomba history. And even though he might have been just an ordinary milkman, in the end he was extraordinary, having been the subject of that historic tax prosecution.
Exactly.
What do you think, Damo? You going to throw in some of your taxes to get the plaque up?
Well, yes, I probably won't get him to do my taxes, but anyway.
Yeah,
Now,
well, of course, that's a lesson from Frank, is get your tax right. But if you're not sure, go to an accountant, and they'll get it right.
that's right. Now, mate, we can get it right too by listening back to that story. You're going to post this up later in the week on your website.
That's right. On Fridays, I post the Darling Down story on history out there. You can find history out there on all the socials, as you know. If you're not sick, you'll be going through Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and things. But my website, historyouthere.com.
All right, mate. I appreciate the wonderful story this morning. You take care, and we'll chat again this time next week.
Okay, now get your tax right.